much. Love my voice assistant. It really always helps to bring a lot of nervousness into the air. So let's bring it on. So Rafi, tell us please, first of all, how come that you are working today on accessibility project? Was that something that you thought of you would be doing for at some point in your life? And how does it make you feel now that you are actually helping certain vulnerable groups to learn more and to be included more in our society?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Maya, number one. I will be very honest and say it's not what I was expecting my life would turn out to be, certainly. But I will say that I'm really, really, really happy to be working somewhere that's both interesting on a technical level, and I get to talk to interesting people like everyone here, but I also actually get to help people and make an impact. And it was really brought home to me about 2 months before I started working here. A couple of years ago, I was visiting a friend of mine who was a US Army Ranger for 20 years and managed to get one of his fingers cut off. And because of that, he was in a cast and he was partially living with a disability for over a year. And he actually had to interact with the computer in a different way. He had to use assistive technology. And that really opened my eyes to it. And now I feel like it's something that is very positive for a lot of people. Another example, my mother works with nursing homes and old age homes. And they in particular really need this because all of their customers and all the people that live there are generally dealing with aging related disabilities. So it seems like almost the perfect thing for me to be doing.
Awesome. Awesome. Now that we have Ran here, Ran, would you like to tell us something about yourself, being one of the hosts tonight? And I just wanted to tell you, I'm very happy to have you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. So yeah, I was actually recent acquisition by Accessively. I joined to consult management mostly. And I actually got introduced by a very good friend of mine, and I really liked the idea, and I think the company is doing amazing things, and we can see it all around. One of the key things that I saw was that, 98% of the world websites are not accessible. It was actually a very big surprise for me, and I jumped on this project, and since then I've been working closely with Rafael. And I think that creating awareness and, discussions regarding accessibility is something that we all need to do. So this is why I'm here. And this is actually what I do on a daily basis with Accessibility. Creating awareness.
You have a wonderful job. It's not only that you create communications, new connections, but actually
I connect people. That's my job.
Well, you're doing it better than Nokia for sure, because Nokia lost its fight, but you seem to be getting your own. So without further ado, Rafael, thank you very much for your time tonight. Maybe we should start with presentation and let's talk about accessibility and let's see how each of us would help out in this whole process.
Sounds like a plan. So I'm going to share my screen. You let me know when you can see that, please. There's a picture of me now. I will tell you a secret. We did it special for this presentation. I'm not usually on this presentation. So first things first, what is web accessibility, right? And I'll apologize in advance. Some people may already be very familiar with this. Some people may not be. So we're going to sort of start at the beginning and run through it. And then we have an open Q&A at the end. I'm going to do a live demonstration. So hopefully any of your questions will be answered. But like I said, first, what is web accessibility? Well, it's a set of rules, behaviors, code standards, and design guidelines meant to allow people with disabilities to effectively use websites. And effectively is an important word there. It's different from equally. I can't give a fully blind person the exact same experience on a website like Netflix as I can give a sighted person. What I can do is give them the ability to extract all the same information and perform all the same actions. And it's even more important to recognize this is not just for blind people. It's not just for people who are a little older, who may be a little confused, who may need to look up a word. Epilepsy is also a very, very important aspect of this. If you have animations or flashing lights on your website, as many modern websites do, this can actually be potentially harmful or even deadly to a person with severe epilepsy. And so because of that, there's a lot of different elements here that we have to take holistically and make sure that we're addressing all of them together. The laws that are relevant in the United States are ADA Title III and Section 508. In Europe, you have the EN 301549. I apologize, that number's a little bit off. And in Canada, recently, a very interesting one that is coming into effect January 1st is AODA. Quick tidbit, it gives the Canadian government the ability to fine anyone who doesn't have an accessible website and is a large enough business, 100,000 Canadian dollars a day until they're accessible. And that is becoming very well known in the industry. A lot of people are moving to make sure that they're compliant, so they're not subject to that now. And it's setting something of a trend, because now there's a similar law that was proposed in the United States to clarify ADA Title III by some representatives. God knows what happens with that political process, but hopefully we will see some progress there. And I would imagine that in Europe, we'll see some progress soon too. This is a little bit of information on lawsuits. It's less relevant in Europe, but it is very important to point out that there is an enormous industry behind web accessibility litigation. It is a very big deal. And the reason behind it is we have a very clear directive, and most people don't know they need to be accessible. So the solution, whether it's somebody, and both are relevant, whether it's somebody who genuinely has a disability and is saying, look, I really want to use your website, but I can't, or it's a law firm trying to get a settlement, the best solution is to be accessible from the get-go. And that's what we help people do. So this is a little bit of information about the market out there, because there's other options other than Accessibility, although of course I'm wearing this shirt. I do love Accessibility. You have the automated plugins like UserWay or WP Access. Generally, those will provide maybe 15% of the accessibility of the compliance that you actually need. They generally don't address alt text. They don't address changing the tab order. They don't really fix the complex behind the scenes things. But they can do easy stuff like CSS changes, like change the font or change the background color. As any developers here will know, that's fairly easy. Although to me, not so much because I'm not a developer. Then you have manual services. You have AudioEye, User First. You have a bunch of others. And I'm never going to say anything negative about manual remediation. Those people work real hard. They're skilled developers, and their time costs a lot of money. And their effort costs a lot of money. And so because of that, even if you have a relatively small website, making it accessible to start will cost anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000. And then the upkeep is even more expensive, because every time you update your website, the accessibility has to be updated as well. And that raises both the cost and the time internally to deal with it. With Accessibility, we sort of realized early in 2016, if I'm right, because I actually wasn't here at that point. I joined a little bit more recently. Our founders realized that web accessibility was not going to be widespread truly until it was affordable, simple enough for the average business owner to install on their own and take care of, and automated. And that's what we created. We provide the WCAG compliance. The WCAG is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. It's actually the only internationally recognized set of regulations for web accessibility. And every law in the world, pretty much except for the ADA, directly refers to it. And that's actually the issue they're trying to fix now with the ADA, to make it specifically refer to the WCAG. Accessibility itself, our starting price is around $490 a year. In euros, I believe that's around 425 euros. And then you install our script that we'll provide to you. And over the next 48 hours, we will make that website accessible. We will send you a statement of accessibility when it's accessible. And then that's when our shot clock starts. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But basically, from the moment that you get that statement, we start a clock every 24 hours or every update, whichever one comes first. We do a full scan of that website to make sure that the statement we sent you is still valid, that you are still accessible. This is important to mention that we actually do work with a large group of people with disabilities on an ongoing basis. We have people who are blind from birth, who are more recently blind, who have other impairments, and we work with them to figure out, hey, how can we make this better for you? Are there easier macros? Is this particular color not good? What do you think of this? And we're always improving the product because we never want to be stagnant. Really briefly here, we work with K1. K1 is an excellent investment group that helped us with great connections in the tech space. And we work with DigitalOcean to make sure that all of our hosting is top-notch. All of our uptime is 99.99999, wherever it needs to be. This number is incorrect. I apologize. We're coming up on 70,000 small businesses and industry leaders. But what I like to say here is whether you're Burger King or Burger Joint on the corner, you get the same service from us at the same price. And I can say it because we have Burger King. They were actually one of our first customers. And we have Burger Joints on the corner. This is a copy of the accessibility statement I mentioned before. It just goes into detail about what's been done to make your website accessible. And it's a compliance requirement, so you do need to have it there. These are the compliance audits that we're going to send you every month. Now, a nice thing about these, and I'll show you that a little later as well, is they come from our ACE scanner. You can see ACE right here. And our ACE scanner is a free tool that you can use at any point to scan any website you want as many times as you want. And it'll provide you a monthly audit, but you can go back and get as many audits as you feel like you need. These audits are really, really useful because they provide you with code snippets of elements that are not functioning properly. So right here, everything's 100%, everything's in green. But if something is not 100%, and let's say, for instance, right here, manipulatively hidden interactive elements should be excluded from assistive technology. Let's say that they weren't. You would see a no there instead of a yes, and then it would show you exactly what the issue is so that you can go in and fix it. This is our litigation support package. It is less relevant in Europe because less people are getting sued. It's not really the same environment, but in the US, we stand behind our word. You know, we say you're WCAG compliant, we will prove that. If somebody sends, God forbid, a demand letter or something like that, you inform us immediately, and we will send over, first things first, a compliance audit. Because they have to make a claim saying this particular part of that website is not accessible. We're going to look at that website and determine, is it accessible? Is it not? I can tell you from my experience, 99.9% of the time, it is an accessible website. Then we go over to a compliance overview. A lot of times the reason people will send us a demand letter or something like that is because they don't understand all of the features that Accessibility has. So we send them an explanation of those features. Then we'll send over a failures request master. Now this is a long spreadsheet where they can log and document perceived accessibility failures or problems. Because if there is a real problem, we want to know about it right now so we can fix it. Then we'll resend you your accessibility statement so you have it handy, and our suggested response. Our suggested response is basically a form letter, and we've used it to handle literally over 2,500 of these types of demand letters in the last year for our customers. And I'm very proud to say not a single one of our customers has been sued after installing our product. And we plan to continue that streak. So this is our installation process. We have really just one line of JavaScript code. Every major CMS we integrate very, very easily. We have plugins on Wix. We have plugins on WordPress. The moment that you do the installation, anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes after that, depending on your website, our interface will appear. And then over the next 48 hours, like we said before, our AI is going to go to work. It's going to figure out what it needs to do to make this website accessible. And then when you get that statement of accessibility to your email, that's when you know our shot clock started. You're accessible now, and either in 24 hours or the next update, whichever one comes first, we're going to do a scan and make sure that that statement is still valid. This is a little bit of the differentiation between the two main parts of our interface, of our tool. You have the sort of front side stuff, the CSS, the simple stuff. Cursors, contrasts, colors, font sizes, stop animations. As all of you guys know, developers know, this is relatively simple. The more complex stuff is on the back end. That's where we say where the magic happens. We actually have multiple AIs. So we use a contextual understanding AI to create a quick navigation menu on the page. We use it to rearrange the tab order so that it makes sense for people who are blind. As an example, just to explain that a little bit better, let's say that you have a great design on your web page and your H1s and H2s don't necessarily make sense on the back end, but they look right on the front end. They look right to the user. For somebody who can't see that, it would be very confusing to hear things in the order that you programmed it. So Accessibility knows how to look at that and change the order so it makes sense to people who aren't seeing it. We also have to make other adjustments. For instance, if there are not screen reader only texts, alternative text, if there aren't ARIA labels, we need to provide those automatically. So we use OCR and Iris technology. OCR is optical character recognition to actually look inside an image, determine what are the words, what are the numbers, what's being said in that image, and then write down an alternative text for it. And I'll show you a demonstration of that very soon, but I want to point out here that there is always a give and take between how descriptive you want to be in an alt text. The reason being, somebody is actually having to listen to it in their ear. And we recently had a really awesome lunch with one of the guys, his name's Adi, he's blind from birth. He's one of the guys who helped us develop Accessibility. And he did a demonstration for us of how he uses his screen reader. He had to turn it down to 40% speed so that we could understand what was being said. So if you can imagine somebody listening to really, really, really fast speaking, you don't want to put them through too much. In my experience, people who are blind are not dumb by any means. They're a lot of times quicker on the uptake than a lot of people who can see. And so that being the case, there's no reason to put them through extensive explanations of stuff when they know what's going on. This is what the interface looks like. And all I want to point out here is that it can be customized for colors and for logos and appearances. And we have these profiles here. The reason we have these profiles here and not just a bunch of extra buttons is because we want to make it as simple as humanly possible for anybody who needs these adjustments to get to those adjustments immediately. And if anybody's questioning whether your website's accessible, it's really easy to see everything that you cater to. So that's sort of two good things there. That brings us to the end of this presentation. Unless we have some burning questions, Maya, I think the best thing would be to go to a demonstration now. What do you think?
I think that would be awesome, but I would still like, hi Estella, hi everyone who came a bit later than we started. I just wanted to ask, maybe people have some questions on the basis of what you have said. I just have a question. I mean, you said there consultancy that you guys provide. Should there be a litigation or a process going on? Is this something that it's included in the price of the package? So
Yes, of course.
Additional costs, right? But it's all...
No additional cost.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay.
Thank you.
I mean,
we're very lucky that we don't have to use it very often. Part about...
But still, it's a good peace of mind, you know, a friend in need when you really need him. So that's really awesome. So let's see if you guys have any questions before Rafael moves to the demo. Well, I believe everybody's quite quiet, or perhaps have a problem of unmuting themselves. In that case, I would expect a message. Please message us, guys, if you would like to ask a question. And Rafael, please, the floor is yours.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, like Maya said, please feel free to just write questions in the chat box. I do see it, so worst case, I'll interrupt myself and answer your question. Let me know when you can see new summer collection, please. Awesome. So first thing I want to point out is in the lower left-hand side, if you've seen Accessibility before, you might not have seen this particular icon. We offer, I believe it's 10 different icons you can choose from right now. And that's just so it doesn't always look the same. Some people like a wheelchair, some people don't. Some people want a settings wheel. So it's really just whatever you're comfortable with. Now, if we open up this interface, you'll notice that it's in pink. It matches the design of the website. You can do that too. Super convenient. The statement of accessibility is right here. It's required. It's a legal requirement, so we make it super easy to find. I'll start with some of the front side stuff. So online dictionary, this is connected to Wikipedia. Like I mentioned to you before, Maya, my mother works with people who are in old age homes, and a lot of times they don't have the best memory, and they forget some things, which is completely normal. So it's not just them, by the way. It's also people who speak English as a second language, which a lot of those are professionals. Look at Ron, for instance. He's a very smart professional and speaks English as a second language. So if somebody's forgotten what Black Friday is or Cyber Monday, they can find out really quickly, get an explanation, and then get a nice discount. If I turn on the seizure safe profile, you'll notice that all of the animations stop and everything gets a little bit darker. Again, this is super, super important because epilepsy is one of the very few, if not the only conditions that if your website isn't accessible, you could potentially harm or even kill someone. So that's why that's the first one on here, and that's the first one that I like to talk about. Visually impaired profile is pretty much exactly the opposite. It's going to make everything bigger and brighter. Then you have a cognitive disability profile. It helps with reading and focusing. So you'll notice you draw little circles around the titles, around the links, around drop downs to make it easier to identify. Then if somebody has ADHD, as you may have noticed, I have a somewhat mild case of that. We have a really great reading mask here along with some other adjustments. that lets people focus on what they need to focus on. We also have a button all the way down here that hides all the images, because some people really can't look at information or words if there are images around, so we can hide all of them. I like the images. Then we have blind users, screen reader, and keyboard navigation. Those go together, but I want to point out a few other things before we go to that. So one is readable font. This just goes to the default font the person has on their website, on their computer, excuse me. We assume that they can read that. Then we have the text colors and the title colors and the background colors. The reason that it's so important to be able to adjust these and change these at will is because not everybody who's colorblind is colorblind in the same way. So regardless of what adjustments you make or what contrast you work with initially on your website, it's not going to be accessible to everybody. This is another part of our philosophy that just believes that the best way to provide accessibility to the widest range of people is through customization. Now, you'll notice what I did there, I set everything back to normal. I had to hit reset settings. This is important as well because our system uses local storage, not cookies, to save a user's settings. So if you are living with a disability and you visit a website more than once, you don't have to toggle everything on again and again and again. It's ready and waiting for you with the adjustments that you made before. But because we don't do cookies, we do local storage, it doesn't impact GDPR or any other data protection statutes. We don't collect any PII, any personally identifiable information. Now, before I go to the blind users, I want to point something out about this website. If you look at this image I'm inspecting now, there is 0 alt text. The reason for that is because we want to demonstrate that we can provide alt text. Accessibility is actually programmed not to override existing accessibility work that you may have done in your website. So if you have alt texts that aren't good, we won't go in and replace them. But if you don't have an alt text at all, so we will provide one. So what I'm going to do now is, excuse me. Can you guys still see the presentation? Oh.
Yes. I mean, we see the layout of a page where it says sale 30% Black Friday.
Oh, you still see that? Okay, great. Okay, I apologize. I got myself mixed up on my computer for a second there. So we inspected the image. We know that there's no alt text there. Now, someone who is blind will not be able to identify this button right here, right? Because how could they see it? How could they move their mouse? So there are 2 ways that we can work with them. Number 1 is we'll identify automatically any kind of assistive technology that's live on that person's computer right now. So if they have a screen reader, which is the most common assistive technology for someone who's blind, we will notice that and we will send them a voice note saying, "Hi, you've entered an accessible website. Please hit Alt-1 to turn on accessible mode." In addition to that, there are a lot of macros and shortcuts in the disabled community. And from feedback from a lot of people that we work with to test, we figured out it's much better to work with those as well, so that somebody who's coming into our website who's never used Accessibility before will just be able to go automatically and turn on what they want. So now I'm going to turn on accessibility for blind users screen reader mode, and I'll inspect this image again. And now I get extra 30% off shop now, woman in long sleeve shirt folding clothes. If I inspect this image right below, I'm going to get woman in black tank top with arm tattoos. Now, that's pretty descriptive. It's exactly what's in there. Could it be more descriptive? Sure. We could describe the arm tattoos. We could describe the tan she has. We could describe anything. But it's back to that thing I mentioned before of how descriptive do we want to make it? How much do we want to make this person listen to? And we think we found a good medium in between there. Now, the last thing I want to point out is the tab order, because we mentioned that before. And the tab order is actually super important because we did a research paper of more than 10 million web pages that we scanned. And we found that about 50% of the images are accessible. We assume that's for SEO, not so much for accessibility. More than 90% of drop-downs, of menus, and of pop-ups are completely not accessible. And that's more of a problem than you might think, because if this drop-down doesn't automatically open for me like it does here, as somebody who can't see it, I'm not going to know it's a drop-down, right? If I open this pop-up and I don't get this little window in the bottom right that says pop-up panel, press escape to close, navigate with tab, playing to screen readers, I won't know that I'm in a pop-up, and I may actually have to shut down my computer to exit your website, which is a terrible, terrible user experience. Whereas here, I can very easily escape, navigate to the next thing, and continue with my life. That is pretty much the presentation. I'd be very happy to explain anything else, demonstrate more stuff, answer any questions anybody has. And thank you so much for having me again.
This is awesome. First of all, I wasn't aware of the problems that visually impaired people have, and that they're even forced like to leave the browser in order to leave. I mean, that's really, but I'm sure there are many more problems that impaired people are actually dealing with. Are there any questions from our kind people who are today with us? Don't be shy. Lokesh, I'm sure you have a question about accessibility.
No, this is a new zone for me, totally new. I got to understand more about this, then I can have questions. At the moment, my questions will be quite basic.
Oh, all right, all right. Milana.
Well, I have some tools in my browser to test all different kind of accessibilities, but do you have any a tool that you could recommend to developers to start seeing how good or bad they did their job?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Thank you. So, because I had actually forgotten to bring this up. We have our own scanner that we created called ACE. I wanted to call it ACE Automated.
I'm
Really?
using it, yeah.
Look at this. I wanted to call it the Automated Compliance Expert, but we just went with ACE. So if you put any domain you want in here, you'll get a full website scan, 15-page PDF report. And as you know, Milana, you will get code snippets. It will point out if something's wrong. It's not going to just tell you this is wrong. It's going to show you exactly what the problem is there. The other nice thing is if you put in a specific URL, like google.com/homepage or rafi.com/glance, whatever it might be, it will scan that specific page. So instead of paying the average price in the market right now, to my understanding, is $100 to $200 per page for a manual audit, you can just scan page by page and get a 15-page report. It's a little bit tedious, but it's certainly a lot more affordable, and in my opinion, just as good, if not better.
I'll add another question. Thank you very much.
Please.
I find it often that developers think when they think it's not important because client didn't ask, and then when they come to understanding it is important, then they think it's difficult. So do you have any advice how to explain to them that this is actually very good for SEO? So that's how you sell it to clients. But it's not that difficult. How do we convince them to start doing more accessible websites?
Great question. I think the answer largely is accessibility, just because I would not be able to convince someone that manual accessibility work is not difficult, because it is. Even if it's not particularly complex, it's very time consuming. So for the business owner, it's an added expense that's problematic for them. They also have to keep worrying about it. The nice thing with accessibility is, number one, it will help you with your SEO. It will help you with your on-site time, for the simple reason that when somebody who has a disability enters a website that's adjusted for them, they'll spend a while on that website. It can significantly reduce your bounce rate too. But at the same time, the difficulty and frustration of dealing with web accessibility is completely out the window with accessibility. That was our whole thing. You know, it's a set it and forget it tool. And if it wasn't, then we wouldn't be able to do what we do, because we pride ourselves in that a business owner can come to our website without ever interacting with one of our employees, purchase a license, install that script, and get going without ever dealing with us.
Cool. Thank you.
Who's next?
Yes, exactly. Who's next? Estella is looking very shy, so I'm not even trying to ask her anything.
She even removed her microphone, like,
No,
I'm
I'm
not
here.
speaking.
I'm here. No, I really don't have any questions. I saw only half of the presentation. Sorry for being late. My previous meeting ran out a little later than expected. But I
Sure.
promise I will go through the website and learn all about it. It's quite interesting for the short part that I saw. So I really want to learn more about it. I guess I'll just go back to the website, and if I have questions, I'll just find somebody there.
If
You're
you want, you can
amazing.
email me.
Yeah, I get you. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm,
Send an email directly to Rafi and let's
mhm.
see what we can do. So I believe, Larissa, are you there perhaps? Or there is Abba. You mentioned you use different styles of AI. Can you expand a little bit on this?
Sure. So we use a couple of different components. We have our OCR and Iris AI, which is just image recognition. It identifies words and letters and numbers that are being used inside of an image, and then it writes down what's inside there. Then we have the contextual understanding, and this is proprietary AI. It's something that's been exposed to my understanding, over 100 million data sets, and it just gets better and better. The way I like to describe it is, if you put accessibility on a shoe store online, like Zappos, it's going to figure out, oh, this is a shoe store. They're selling shoes on the internet. If you put this on a car dealership or a motorcycle dealership, it will figure out very quickly, oh, this is a motorcycle dealership. This is an image carousel of motorcycles. And so if there's a strange image, it can infer a little bit based on the context what this should be. And it also understands from that how to rearrange the elements, how to rearrange the tab order so that it makes sense for somebody who can't see what's going on. Does that answer?
I believe that answered the question, but let's wait. I think Abba is typing us messages because she's not in the position to speak. But if possible, Abba, you might want to join. Actually, Abba is working with artificial intelligence,
Oh, cool.
involved in these projects, and very prominent member of our society from this point of view. So if possible, Abba, please join the live discussion.
I would
Hi.
love to give so many details.
Hi, sorry, I'm not got much of a voice with me today, so apologies for that. Yeah, so I was just trying to understand how, when it uses AI, how do you get round people's fear of that with an accessibility resource? Because quite often that creates more fear. So how do you approach that as a company?
You know what? I don't mean to disagree with you or anything. I have not experienced that much direct fear of AI. Certainly not in the Terminator sense, but it's not something that is really brought up by the user. By really large organizations, they will have a data protection concern, but we are really, really clean on data protection. Like I said before, we do not collect any PII. When we do scans of the website, like I mentioned before, it's only collecting structural HTML. So to my understanding, all the data protection is where it needs to be, and there's no real risk of AI running amok here. And it may just be that the customers that I've been dealing with lately and the partners that I've been dealing with lately are already desensitized to it. And a new market that's not as familiar with AI, it would be less so.
Possibly, yes. And the fact that you do local storage and that your scanners don't collect the data probably answer a lot of those issues for people.
Exactly.
But in reality, it's also a big concern. And in terms of helping people have an awareness of how AI is being used, and encouraging companies to have statements on how they're using AI publicly available, which I'm sure you probably do already, so that the user, particularly those who are not familiar with AI, can actually look it up. They can understand what is being gathered and what about their behavior patterns are being monitored. Now, obviously, I presume in your case, if you don't have an AI statement, I'd encourage you to do so, particularly because of some of the areas that I champion is about disability and AI. And explaining just the things that you've explained, that you don't collect data in particular ways, and how you use that data. No different really from how you would approach the GDPR statement, but you're swapping it for that. And you can also link it to your accessibility statement, which a lot of big firms are now doing.
It sounds like a great idea. I will certainly bring it up. And I would not be surprised, I would imagine that we already do have some kind of statement like that contained in the terms of service that everybody agrees to and everything. It might not be front and center. But I agree with you. I think that if you frame it like that with the concern of what are we tracking, what are we watching, what's our AI, you know, is it a heat map, what's going on? I can definitely see how that would be a concern. And I think that you're absolutely right. The local storage, the no PII, it really addresses a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps people with the awareness, which is something that we're doing with the United Nations in trying to encourage people and companies worldwide to think about how you can make the customer better informed, and they can actually make an informed decision about what is being in use. And with disability in particular, it's say that everybody has that right. So I can't see it on your website, but definitely those are the things that you would need. It's an easy thing to put, and hopefully encourage other people therefore to also do it.
I'm with you. I'm not really the decision maker, but I will absolutely bring it up because in my mind, it seems very, very rational to do.
Brilliant. And if you do, let us know, and we can highlight as one of the organizations that's doing that.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, you can feel free, actually, anybody here can feel free to send me an email at Refael, R-E-F-A-E-L, @accessibility.com. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, any inquiries, work with you, not work with you, whatever you want.
Fantastic. Thank you for taking the question.
Of course.
This is awesome, Abba. Thank you very much, because I think that clearing these bits and pieces are actually going to tune the whole picture, right? And to give it a real framework that will be suitable both for people who are contributing and creating new projects and products, but also the ones who are using at the same time. This is awesome. I'm really enjoying. The discussion is becoming more serious. Rafi, are you ready for the next question?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Correct. So let's see if there are any more questions that you guys would like to ask. In the meantime, okay, I have a question. Actually, Nigel, can you talk? Would you be able to tell us if there are any rules in Africa, I mean, in your country at least, when it comes to accessibility?
Not that I know of. And as a matter of fact, yeah, most of the government websites are very tough to navigate, even for able-bodied people. So yeah, we don't have a lot of access. But in the universities and colleges, yeah, there is a bit more accessibility, like in the university libraries and places like that. But in general, accessibility isn't a big topic in our country. That's Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate. We don't have too many attendees from Africa, so any type of view or any information is really significant to understand how other communities, WordPress communities, are actually being involved in such business and, of course, human point of view.
If anyone wants to look at different policies, there is the community-based rehabilitation network that actually has different African countries and the disability policies that apply to them. So that might be a good starting point if anyone's interested.
Actually, you mentioned you wanted to hear a little bit more about the WordPress plugin, right?
Yeah, I just thought it'd be useful for some of the people who are here today who use WordPress.
Beauteous. So here it is. We are very lucky to have great support staff and great content staff. So they worked up all of these installation guides. I like to call them idiot proof because I can do them. So it must be. And you really just go to log on to site management, click plugins, add new, search for Accessibility. It is right there. Click install now, and you are pretty much good to go. We have extensive details here, and actually I will copy paste this into the chat so that everybody can see it.
I have a question. I mean, you've mentioned there that the rate or the fee depends on, that actually varies from. So could you tell me whether it would be the same usage for a WooCommerce shop that has, let's say, 10,000 items, and for a blog. So how different would the package be actually?
Great question. I love it. So we have a few different packages available. We go by page count. So this is unique pages that Google indexes. This is in general, of course, if somebody comes to us with a specific website and shows us a, Google says it's 1,001 pages and you show us an XML that says it's 900. So we're not going to give you too much trouble over that. But the reason that we go with these is because it's based on how much work the AI actually has to do. So up to 1,000 pages, it's going to be $490 a year. Up to 10,000 pages, it's going to be $14.90 a year. Up to 100,000 pages, it's $19.90 a year. And up to 1 million pages, it's $3,500. Now, for a blog, it really depends on how that blog is structured, because sometimes there's really just a few pages, and other times it maintains all of the old posts, and it's been around for years, so it can have thousands of pages. We'll scan each one individually, and we have great representatives at every level of the sales department here, and they're very able to help out with whatever's needed.
That's great. And what about the languages support? I mean,
I believe that right now we support 14 languages. And let me just pull those up here. This is, by the way, a different design of the tool. It's blue, the icon's a little bigger. If we go over to languages here, we have English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, Hebrew, I believe Mandarin and Cantonese. Netherlands language is Dutch. I apologize, I was going to say Netherlands. And then we have UAE Arabic, another type of Arabic, and Russian.
How can you get more languages? You don't have Serbian.
I just talked to somebody 2 days ago, or on Friday, about getting Croatian, and he said, well, if you get Croatian, you pretty much have Serbian. It's 95% the same. And on a personal note, I'm dying to go back
everything
to Serbia.
is the same. It's just they use Latin and we use Cyrillic, but we pretend it's different.
Okay. Well, I was in Serbia a couple of years ago. I have a close friend who lives there, and it is an incredible place. So hoping to go back soon.
did you eat sarma when you were in Serbia?
I honestly couldn't tell you. We stayed in a hunting lodge with my ex-wife who was a vegan. So that was so much of an adventure that
We need to resend you, okay?
Yeah, you have to come back and take some of our food.
I would love to. Well, I'll have to learn to cook it also, though.
No issue at all. We can provide you with accommodation and the basic ingredients, and then if you need something extra, we'll see what we can do, what Amazon can do actually.
Sure. We'll do another webinar also. That's how I'll earn it.
Correct. So before we close this meeting, I mean, is there a message that you would like to send out to the web developers and designers, to agencies, to actually to the makers of the web, why they should focus on accessibility enhancements, and what is the best way, how they can save time?
Yes. So I think that there's 3 major points there. One is that it's morally the right thing to do. With the numbers of people with disabilities in the world, pretty much everybody has somebody in their family or somebody close to them who has lived with or is living with a disability. On top of that, we have temporary disabilities. You break your leg, you can't walk properly for a couple of months. That means you have a temporary disability. So on a moral level, it's just very, very important to do. Number 2, it's the law. So you really should follow the law. And number 3, it's good for your business. Not only in the age of whatever's going on right now in 2020 and soon to be 2021, you can get attacked for advertising anything. This is one of the few things that nobody can say a bad thing about you advertising about. You're saying, hey, we're being inclusive of everybody. We're putting the effort in to let everybody access our website. That's an awesome thing. On top of that, you're going to make more money because more people can shop at your store, and you're going to help people you didn't even realize needed help. My grandmother, for instance, who passed away somewhat recently, loved online shopping before she died. She did not have the best vision, and she was a little out of it by the end. If she'd had a tool like Accessibility that lets her just change the colors and make them a little bit clearer, this is not making it clearer actually, but if you could change things, make it clearer, you know, readable font, or just increase the font sizes. A lot of people have difficulty seeing stuff. You increase the font sizes, they can see it better. They'll be more likely to buy things from your store. I think a business owner should always be looking for ways to make it easier for people to buy stuff from them. And this is one of those ways.
I'll just add something. It's not just for accessibility needs. For example, I use keyboard as much as I can because I'm working on computer and I hate mouse. So I had this ritual when I was working on one project: open new tab, open Trello, open this, open that. And Trello had for a while, I would open it and it would open a login form, and they had a button login with Google, and I was logging it with Google, but on tab it didn't work. I couldn't find that button on tab, and I actually went to Twitter and asked them, where is the tab for login with Google? I don't want to touch my mouse just to log in to Trello. And they fixed it right away because they know that that's an important thing. Yeah. But so it's not just for accessibility. It's not just for people who needs help. It's for everyone. I don't like to use my mouse, and if website is not accessible via keyboard, it's just I'll move on.
I agree.
Oh goodness, and I was just about to send you a new mouse. Wow, walk.
I got one that changes colors.
I actually had one very good. It's Logitech. It's very good, but I don't like using it.
No, I'm switching my New Year gift for you, mouse to keyboard, okay?
Yeah, make sure it's deep, not mechanic, but almost.
Hey, I'll show
God.
you. Everybody who has to sit near me until I got my own office was not a fan of me because I think I have the loudest keyboard in the world.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
terrible.
I don't like it loud, but I like to have a feeling of pressing something. I don't like it.
Why? Explain it to me. First of all, it's loud. Second of all, it harms your fingers. Why?
No. I'm a musician by default.
Oh, okay. You're harmed
So
already.
I have this muscle memory, you know, and I have to have that feeling. And I think it's not just because I'm a musician, so I'm used to on that. But I think a lot of people have that, you know, muscle memory that you just, you're insecure when there is just a line that you can touch. It's not what you're used to.
Wow. Well, let's hope. I wish everyone comes out with what they like and what they it's like about using. Let's open the cards. Let's see who's who. Okay?
If you dare.
Let's open the cards. Let's see who's there. And guys, seriously, Rafi, it was really great to have you around. We really enjoyed your talk. We learned something new, and I believe we will. And I believe we'll be able to share this knowledge with other people as well. And should you guys have any questions, please either mail it to me or to Rafael directly. Next week, we will be having a social chat. WordPress social chat in a preparation for WordPress 5.6. We will not talk about it yet, but surely we'll be discussing what's happening and what's being cooked. What else to tell you? New Year's coming, Christmas holidays are coming, and lots of festivities and probably wishes that came true and the ones that didn't come true. Well, I wish you to start, since the 1st December starts tomorrow, I wish you to start dreaming about your wishes for the next year. And until I see you next time, I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.